So hi everyone, today I'm going to have a go at painting this hare which I found on Unsplash by Juho Luamala. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that name correctly, but I will put a link in the description below. You can see that I've just done a rough kind of pencil outline, except that I haven't used a pencil. What I've actually used is the Da Vinci wash brush, the Ethograph wash brush, which has got a metal point tip. And it's a size 3 and it's Russian blue squirrel hair. So that's what I actually use to do my outline with. You can get that from Jackson's. I'm probably going to use my size 12 Van Gogh round. I quite like the Van Gogh brushes, so that's what I'm going to be using. And I'm also using size 8 Van Gogh, another round. I might not use all these brushes, but that's the size 4. And I've got a Pro Art Pro Lean size 0, which is a rigger brush in case I need it. So those are some of the brushes that I just might use. As I said, I'm using my Michael Harding paints that I've put in this little travel kit in actual fact. So I've done various videos on the Michael Harding paints, but those are the colours that are in this little travel set that I'm going to be using to do this hair painting for you. So the paper that I'm using is this watercolour painting book that I got from Amazon. Trying to look to see if there is any make on it, but I can't see it. But I will also put the link to the watercolor book as well in the description for you, and the Da Vinci wash brush as well. So that's what I'm using to start off with, the wash brush, just to get some background in. And I'm going to be doing wet in wet, which is why I am just wetting the paper roughly. I'm not being wonderfully precious about it. Those of you that have watched me paint before, I'm someone that I just get going, give it a go, and hope for the best. And sometimes they turn out and sometimes they don't. But I think if you ask most artists, their first attempt doesn't always work out. Sometimes it does take more than one attempt. So there we are. I've just washed the paper down with some water there and the wash brush. So I'm just making a start, and the colour that I'm starting off with is the lemon ochre. At the moment I'm doing this as a voiceover, because when I did the video itself, there was too much going on in the background, so I'm hoping that I can do the voiceover and keep up with myself as such. So yeah, bit of lemon ochre there to start off with, and I'm just going to dot that in. I just want a kind of a blurry effect for the background. As you can see, I'm just dotting it about there. What did I add there? Okay, I think that might have been some of the cosmic blue, possibly. Yeah, that's Cosmic Blue. And a bit of Perylene Green as well. You can see the page is actually quite watery. But that's what I want, because I want all my paints to just merge at the moment. Bit more Cosmic Blue. And there's that Perylene Green. Trying to get it a bit darker in that corner there to add some contrast. And down the bottom there. Then I'm just adding water. I'm just splatting some water so that it gives some nice effects, and just tilting that paper up and letting it all just do its thing, letting the watercolour do what it does best. Okay, so now what I'm going to use is my Tony Harrison foliage brush, but it's got this lovely end to it, and that means that I can use it to scrape away at some of the paint, make some nice marks, depending on whether the paint is still wet or whether it's drier. It will make different effects. So I did pause the video and dried what I'd done so far with a heat gun, and you can just see how that has turned out and given quite a nice blurry kind of background for my hair. So I'm just wetting the paper to do some more wet in wet for the hair now. And I'm using a bit of neutral tint. No, take that back. I decided to use white. And I think that's because I wanted that white to kind of merge with the neutral tint to make a more of a grey. I've added a little bit of Earth of Cyprus over the other side, ready for me to use. So this is for the body of the hair, where I want a kind of a mixture of the browns and greys. And then there's that white that I've put underneath, which I'm hoping is going to give me a good effect. And this will actually just be more of a, well, I'll call it an undercoat, shall I? Because I will use more paint and other media over the top. But I just want to get something down as a background for the body of the hair. I always think at this point everything looks very ugly. But it's a case of just keeping going, I think, when that happens. So now I'm just trying to get the white around the edge of the eyes for the hair. And anywhere else that I could see that there was quite a lot of white on the face. Bit more neutral tint. And I'm trying to preserve some of that white that I'd put down. Gosh, he's really not looking very pretty at the minute, is he? But perseverance. And whoopsie, let's get the tissue. That one went a little bit too far. And I wasn't very happy with the nose at all, but I think later on I correct that. Moving on then to the ears. And then I've used a little bit of red ochre there. going back to the white, because I'd actually lost some of the white. Yeah, I'd lost the white around the eyes there. So yes, we can see that at the minute it really just looks quite messy. So I did let that dry, and then I'm moving on to my luminance, and that one's a Payne's Grey. And I'm also planning on using the Payne's Grey, and that one is the 30%. And this one is the Natural Russet. And then this is a Derwent drawing, it's the Chinese white. I pulled those out. I wasn't sure what I was going to use, but I thought that they might be appropriate. So now I start to use the luminance pencils to add some more texture, another element to that background that I've done there with the paints. And I'm kind of using it on its side, other than when I want a bit more definition. And that was where I kind of wanted to show the, what would you call it? Is it like a hip joint? I'm not sure what it's called on a hare. But anyway. And then I'm going in with that Payne's Grey 30%. I'm just trying to make it look as though there's some sort of hairs sticking up there. And then I've gone in with the Chinese white. And this is where I'm trying to correct the nose that I wasn't very happy with. But there we go. Nothing turns out perfectly every time. So, I've done my best to try and make that nose look a little bit better. I think I would work a bit harder on that next time, but there we go. So I just keep changing between those 4 pencils and just building it up. So I hope that some of the silences aren't too annoying with me doing this voiceover. I still wasn't happy with how things were around the face, so gone back in again, seeing what I can do there and get that eye. As soon as I do that, actually, that kind of started to make a difference, really, with that eye, I think. Oops. I'm just constantly looking backwards and forwards to the reference photo and just adjusting as I go along, looking at where things are darker and where things are lighter. And then moving on to those ears and giving them a bit more texture. And then bringing out that white a little bit more there. You can just see, it's funny, I can see it more now that I'm watching it back as I'm doing this audio, how, you know, layer by layer, it starts to really build it up into something that's a little bit more 3D. And bearing in mind that I'm not someone that has been trained to do art. I only started in 2018, and I do it as something that I enjoy and as a very mindful, peaceful activity to keep stress levels down. So yeah, each little layer, building it up, starts to really make a difference. Just trying to get some of those contrasts in there. Adding some whiskers in. And actually, now that I look at it, that nose is not looking too bad. I think I managed to salvage the nose. And now I'm just adding a bit more texture for fur. And I'm using that Derwent drawing in the Chinese white. So there we go. I think that was where I left it, using those Michael Harding paints. And oh no, am I adding something else? I am. Okay. Oh, I'm going back in with some of the red ochre. I wasn't sure whether this was going to work, and that's a little bit of neutral tint. So I'm going over the top of and do you know, I remember now, because I did this before I went away and I've only just come back, and I didn't have time to do the voiceover before that. So I remember I was really quite pleasantly surprised at what happened when I added the quite watered down paint over the top of where I'd used the Caran d'Ache luminance. Still not happy there, am I? I'm going back in, do that eye a bit more. But all in all, I think I'm quite pleasantly surprised with how my hair turned out. I'm pleasantly surprised with putting the very watered down paint over the top of the luminance. I mean, they're not watercolour pencils, they are just coloured pencils. So I think it gave it an even more painterly kind of feel. And I think he's got a little bit of a character, my Hare. So just to finish off, I'm adding, looks like, I think that's red ochre. And I think I maybe used a little bit of, might have used some Quim bronze there as well. Just adding a few splats to finish everything off. So yes, one Hare completed using Michael Harding paints and a few coloured pencils. I think I'm just fiddling now. Does anyone else fiddle like this? Am I finished? Am I not finished? Am I nearly there? Anyway, I'll make sure I will try and put the things that I said in the description below. Yeah, I just added a few more grasses with, I think I've just used another green coloured pencil. Or it might be a Derwent pencil, actually. I'm not sure which. Oh, and that's obviously a Caran d'Ache, to just bring out some of those grasses a little bit more. Actually, that light green has really made a difference. What was that light green? It was spring green, for those of you that want to know what that one was. It was spring green. But there we are. All finished. Enjoy.